Well, I think that my view of the conflict in El Fasher and what's played out is that it was entirely predictable. What we are seeing in El Fasher happened 2 years ago in El Genina, and 2 years ago we called it a genocide, and we condemned it, but we did not take, as an international community, any action to stop it, any action to document what happened, any action to hold accountable those people who committed these crimes. We sanctioned a few people, but those sanctions obviously had no impact because the same crimes are being committed by the same people 2 years later. So it's clear that the Rapid Support Forces, they don't fear the consequences of their actions. In fact, they are putting it on social media themselves. They are not hiding the crimes that they are committing. They are committing them in full daylight for the world to see, because they are trying to sow fear and terror in the minds and in the hearts of the Sudanese population. And so, we will continue, unfortunately, to see this kind of violence in Jazeera and in Fasher until the international community draws a line and says no more. And so this is the challenge that the Trump administration faces. Will they take real and credible action to stop these human rights violations, even if the human rights violations do not impact the U.S. national security interests, which they don't. Washington will continue along just fine, no matter how many people are killed in El Fasher. But there is always a moral argument to be made, and that the United States does have leverage. It has leverage over the RSF. It has leverage over the RSF's backers in the Gulf. And so will it use that leverage, or will it choose not to use that leverage? That's the question for Washington. Well, I can't really explain what is motivating Mossad Boulos or U.S. diplomacy. I think there is an assumption within the Trump administration that businessmen make better diplomats. I don't know if that is true. They might be able to make a deal, but the question is, how long will any deal made by a businessman last if it is not taking into account the very complicated and historical challenges the country of Sudan faces and the society faces? Even if you get a ceasefire deal, even if you get a deal on a transitional government, how does that address the root causes of conflict that have continued the cycle of coups and cycle of civil war and genocide and violence in the country? Unless we deal with the fundamental, challenges of the Sudanese state around the role of the state, the role of the military, tribalism, ethnicity, religion, regionalism, these basic identifiers within Sudanese society, unless those are, I think, managed and understood, then any peace deal or ceasefire deal is going to be overwhelmed and overtaken at some point by these much more fundamental tensions in society that are not being addressed. And that's my concern with, a businessman's approach to making peace in Sudan.